Good afternoon. The title of my paper is The Lod Mosaic Floor, Its Menagerie, Roman Influence on Local Mosaic Art. And we will also try to deal with the interpretation, context, and chronology of the floor. For a beginning, I shall present some general information about the ancient city of Lod. Lod is situated on the border of the coastal plain and the Shvela, the inner plain, and to the west of the Ayalon River. The settlement existed here already in the Neoliths and continued uninterrupted until modern times. The city was the center of a rich agricultural region, a virtual agricultural paradise surrounded by agricultural land with water sources. This geographic location, the geological formation, and the climate were favorable for the cultivation of olives, fig trees, etc. Lod was famous for its figs, date groves, strawberries, and various sorts of grains. Also wine was cultivated. Lod was the center of a flourishing textile industry as well as a dyeing industry. After the destruction of the Second Temple, Lod developed into a major Jewish center, and its role as important an intellectual and spiritual center at that time added to the economic success of the city during the Roman period. The economic prosperity of Lod during the Roman and Byzantine period was due in no small part to its location at the intersection of the important north-south thoroughfare, such as the eastern branch of the Via Maris, the most important international route in ancient Palestine, which connected Egypt and Syria and Mesopotamia, and the east-west thoroughfare that connected Jaffa with Jerusalem. Here you have the Via Maris, and you have the way from Jaffa, Lod, and then to Jerusalem. Around 199-200 AD, Septimius Severus upgraded the municipal status of Lod, and it now became a polis, or to be more exact, a colonia, with the official name of Colonia Lucia Septimia Severia Diospolis, or in short, Diospolis, a name the Jews of Lod never really accepted. This new status required the construction of buildings and institutions associated with this type of municipal standing. Thus, for example, the coinage from the city depicts pagan temples. The new city of Diospolis Lod, with pagan temples and non-Jewish population, was apparently constructed in the northern region of Lod near the Ayalon River. Here. This is the northern region, and this is probably the, where is this thing? No, back. This is a new city of Diospolis. Here is a tell of Lod, and here's the old city with its Jewish and early Christian population. And the Ayalon River is not drawn here, but it goes up here. The original Roman city was undoubtedly the area southeast of the tell, the old city with its Jewish population, its synagogues, academies. The salvage excavation on behalf of the Israel Antiquities Authority, initiated in April 1996 on Hechalut Street, situated to the northeast part of the old city near the Ayalon River, led to the discovery of a large mosaic floor of exceptional quality and in excellent state of preservation. In the vicinity of our date, several Byzantine mosaic floors have been unearthed in previous digs. Here are two of those. I want to show where we are. Our mosaic floor is about situated here. Now we will see the other floors. Here's one, and here's another floor. So there was hope we would find some more floors. Our mosaic floor was discovered about 1 meter below surface, covered by debris which contained, besides many pieces of colored fresco, also numerous pottery fragments as well as coins, none of them later than the 3rd century. The mosaic floor is 9 meters wide and about 17 meters long, that are about 200 square meters. This is an inner part. The floor consists of 2 colorful rectangular carpets. We'll go back. This is the northern one. You saw the before in much nicer pictures, and this is the southern one with a transverse band. The floor consists of 2 colorful rectangular carpets, the northern and the southern, and a broad transverse band separating them, all set against a white background. The north carpet is also set into a white frame containing stylized flowers and bordered by a thick black line. This carpet is especially large and comprises 3 panels enclosed in frames of various geometrical patterns. Here you have. The north panel consists of 9 hexagonal medallions and 2 half medallions, all framed by 2 strand guilloche bands. The panel is bordered by a black outline and a row of waves. The medallions contain representations of fish and birds, as well as wild beasts attacking their prey. A basket full of fish is an exception. Curiously, the figures in this panel are represented in opposite direction. Let us have a closer look at the various scenes. The hexagons in the upper row of the panel, from right to left, consists of a 2-handled basket with all kinds of fish, a motif peculiar to Roman North Africa. Here's a basket, and here we have a basket from Roman North Africa. Next, we see a lioness attacking a stag. Here. Next to it, there is a rock partridge surrounded by 5 chicks. They are not only ferocious scenes, they are also nice, quiet scenes. Then follows a lion with his head en face and its body 3/4 pose, resting next to its prey in a puddle of blood, probably a buffalo. No doubt our artist had a sense of humor, since the lion seems to be smiling. And finally, we have 2 different fish facing opposite directions. Similar fish appeared as a central motif on an early Christian mosaic floor discovered at Kvar Otnai on the grounds of the Megiddo prison. Here you have this floor, and here you have these fish. The lower row starts with a hunting scene. This time, a leopard is attacking a stag, similar to that in the upper row, but here the scene is placed on a thin strip of ground with some meager plants. Next to here, there is a peacock in frontal view with its tail fanned out. A similar peacock appears in the early Byzantine octagonal church at Capernaum. Following is a water snake attacking a large fish. And finally, the tiger attacking a wild donkey. Here again we have a thin strip of ground and blood spilling. A lioness attacking a wild donkey appears in North African mosaic. Here you have a lioness. It was the tale of the tiger, this one. It was the tale of this tiger I came upon first when discovering the mosaic floor. In the half medallions of this panel, we have a bird and a fish. The basket full of fish and the thin strips of ground beneath the figures are motifs peculiar to Roman North Africa. On mosaics of the Roman West, the depiction of the wild beasts and their prey was a popular theme and of stereotypical rendering. The square middle panel of the large carpets contained a 12-sided design with an octagon at its center. I have here this 12-sided design with this octagon. The octagon is surrounded by triangles and squares bordered by guilloche bands. The whole panel itself is bordered by a broad braided band. Here you have a row of stepped pyramids and a guilloche band. A pair of dolphins flanking a trident is placed in each of the four corners. You see here. A similar iconographic scheme appears in a Hellenistic mosaic in the House of the Dolphins in Delos from the 2nd century BC, thus indicating that some of the Hellenistic traditions and concepts were still alive in late antique. It is highly plausible that our artist used pattern books. In each group of the three triangular compartments surrounding the octagon, a fish is set between two fowl, such as a swan or a sort of geese, swans and a sort of geese. We'll see. Here you have this, maybe geese, maybe swans, I don't know. Rock partridges, doves, and what seems to be pheasants. The fish as well as the fowl are different in each corner. And all of them appear also in other parts of the floor. Within two of the four squares abutting the central octagon, we have hunting scenes of the type we already met in the northern panel. In the eastern panel, in the eastern square, we have a leopard hunting a deer and a lion hunting a stag. In the northern square, again, the lion seems to be smiling to the surprised look of the stag. A ferocious hunting scene? One might think different. In the western square, we got a pastoral scene with a hare eating grapes and a sort of small hunting dog with an unusual leash holding the dog at his shoulders. A crater flanked by two female leopards appears in the south square. This is a well-known motif in the Roman art, appearing in various media, and I only want to mention the beautiful stone crater on display in the Petra Museum in Jordan. The central octagon is organized in a less rigid form. The animals are presented on three levels, thus creating a certain three-dimensional impression of space and depth. A tiger and a buffalo are placed in the foreground, while a rhinoceros, a giraffe, and an elephant, its wrinkled skin presented as a net pattern, are placed in the middle ground. An elephant with a similar net pattern skin appears on mosaics of the Piazza Armerina in Sicily. The artist obviously never had seen a live elephant, since the hindquarters of the animal are incorrect. Look at this. These are legs of a tiger or a dog, but not of a... Elephants don't have this sort of angulation. The two mountains on which a lion and a lioness face each other should probably be identified with Ethiopian mountains, while the body of water with a catus emerging here, this monster, might point towards the source of the Nile. The exotic African animals at the foot of the mountains support this suggestion. In a 2nd century BC burial cave discovered at Marisha in Israel, decorated with elaborate wall paintings and Greek inscriptions, a similar variety of African animals already is depicted. Every animal with its name, including a giraffe, termed there in Greek camelopardalos. One could translate it as a leopard kennel. The word Ethiopia is also mentioned. It appears the African menagerie was well known for centuries. In this part of the floor, with its animals, one could have expected to find Orpheus playing, but no. Instead, we have a dog-headed Katos, this monster here. A creature usually found in connection with the Jonah legend, where Jonah is thrown from a ship into the sea to be swallowed by the Katos, a motif found on early Christian sarcophagi. Jonah's restoration after 3 days inside the great whale probably prefigured the resurrection of Jesus after 3 days. But in this part of the mosaic, we neither have an Orpheus nor a ship with Jonah. As a whole, mosaic is void of any human figures, what is quite unusual for a late Roman mosaic floor. It seems the patron who ordered this floor purposely avoided any pagan elements. Here we have a sarcophagus with a Katos and the tree of Jonah. Now, the southern panel shows a marine scene. Fish of all kinds, such as bream, mullet, sea bass, and a snapper, could be identified. In the upper left corner, there is what it seems to be a barracuda, this thing here. 2 large fish in the lower part of the panel, one swallowing a smaller fish, here, and this one, swallowing a smaller fish, are possibly bluefish or amberjacks. I want to thank Dr. Lynn Parenti at the Smithsonian, who was so kind to identify the fish for us. A dolphin, here you have a dolphin, shells and unidentified items, probably mollusks, here you have them, are also depicted. The fish are surrounding 2 merchant ships, one sailing west, while the larger one, placed in the upper middle of the panel and depicted as a damaged ship, is facing east. Because of its central placement, it seems to be the more important ship. A sea monster that can be identified as a second Katos because of its characteristic coiled tail appears in the upper right corner opposite the damaged ship here, this monster. Regretfully, a large part of this ship has been effaced in antiquity for an unknown reason, not by an Ottoman pit as we suggested in previous publications. The fish and the ships are depicted on a plain white background. The water is not rendered in the conventional North African style as broken zigzag lines. Here is a North African panel. The fish on the Lod Mosaic floor show thick black outline under their belly. Yeah, thick black outlines, you see. A similar representation of fish can be observed on a mosaic from Antioch. The solid white background of the marine scene corresponds with the artistic conventions of Antioch. Now, the complete ship seems to be a large seagoing Roman merchant ship. The hull has a rounded shape. This is a hull. Yeah. Rounded shape and a simple rounded prow with curved pointed stem post here. It is adorned with an unusual square device in red, decorated with a circle and cross in yellow. Is this a sort of flag, or should it be interpreted as a foresail? We don't know. The ship has an overhanging stern gallery and a goose-headed stern post. Here, you see this goose here, which is facing the bow. The darker lines on the hull probably indicate whaling pieces. The dark black-brown strip along the lower hull indicates the keel here. Keel, and here you have whaling pieces. The gunwale is painted red. This is a gunwale. There are no bulwarks, and the steering oars seem to have been operated by the helmsman from inside the deckhouse. Here you have the deckhouse and the steering oars. from inside the deck house, which is a feature so far not found on representations of Roman merchant ships. Black lines indicate strips of cloth sewn together to form the square main sail and the triangular topsail. The triangular topsail here, you see? No, where is this thing? Here is this. These are the strips sewn together. By using different colors, the artist has succeeded in making the sail three-dimensional. The lower part of the sail seems to be attached to the lower part of the mast. Here you have it. The flag on top of the mast is correctly depicted. The depiction of the rigging is quite elaborate. The artist shows 3 starboard shrouds here to the left side of the mast and 3 port shrouds to the right. The ropes were connected to the mast at one end and to the gunwale to the other. 2/3 of the way up the mast, possibly a composite one, as indicated by the black and white sections. Here you have these. It was not one section. A yard hangs at right angles. Here, this is a yard. The appearance of the sail, fully set, indicated how the ship would have been sailed at maximum speed and good sea conditions. The damaged ship is of the same type. It is viewed from the starboard side. Here. The bow is missing, only the flag can be seen. From the length of the sternpost and the overall size of the hull, there is no doubt that the ship is larger than the one on the left side of the mosaic. The flag on top of the mast is shown on the right side of the missing bow. Here you see still the end of the mast and the flag and part of the topsail. The mast was not preserved, but we can say for sure that it was not in a straight position. The 2 fish above the ship leave no room for the mast. You see, here are 2 fish. There could be 2 reasons for the forward-leaning position of the mast. Either the mast was broken or it could be retractable. But usually only small sailing boats have a retractable mast, not large merchant ships. According to the torn ropes visible on the stern, here you have the torn ropes, it seems possible the mast was broken. The yard seems to be close to the deck. Probably the yard and the sail fell on the deck when the mast broke, as depicted in this proposed reconstruction. Here. That might be the yard and the broken mast on the... The whole picture could be interpreted as a sort of time capsule, a scene frozen at a specific moment. The ship was not presented at anchor in a harbor. The artist presented the ship with its torn ropes and broken mast the moment it was going to sink. Was there a connection between the damaged ship and the enormous whale-like fish with its open mouth to the right, that according to its coiled tail should be identified as a chaetos? We do not... I show you the back. Here, you have it again. Do we have here a depiction of the Jonah legend? We will never know. For sure, we can suggest that the damaged ship in its central position was a main subject of this marine scene. Now we will go forward. The transverse band separating the 2 main carpets was bordered by a plain black line. This panel is adorned with scrolls emerging from a central crater flanked by peacocks. A basket filled with fruit is placed in the upper right corner. You saw it before, I think. Here, this. This motif, as well as a crater, is often found on later church mosaic floors. The scrolls are inhabited by birds pecking grapes. Glass tesserae were used in profusion in this band, and sandwich gold glass has been used to decorate the crater. It's hard to see, but it is in this band here. This transverse band seems to be a virtual threshold leading from the southern carpet to the northern one. After the mosaic was dismantled, the excavation did not reveal any walls under the foundations of the floor. It seems the transverse band was part of the original layout and not a later insertion, though it seems different artists might have been at work on the various panels. The southern carpet is divided into two panels. The northern one is enclosed in a broad frame with rhomboids and a band of braided guilloche surrounded by a thick black line. It depicts birds such as doves, a rock partridge, a duck, a swan or goose, a pheasant, and a large cock in the lower center. Here you have the nice cock, regretfully damaged. Each bird perched on a branch with a flower at its end. The whole composition was set against a plain white background. This panel was damaged by a modern water pipe. Red underpainting could be seen on the white plaster where the mosaic stones were missing. A comparable bird mosaic was found in Antioch, where the birds and the branches are strewn at random over the panel. The southern panel was surrounded by three decorative frames of virulent beads, a composite guilloche, and lozenges, all also bordered by a thin black line. The panel is filled with intertwining guilloche bands, forming hexagons with curved sides, inhabited by birds, mostly perched on branches, fish, wild beasts, and mythological creatures. Let us see. Here we have a bird, a mythological creature. In this panel, glass tesserae were also used. The southern end of this panel was destroyed by modern activity. The panels of the northern carpet mainly show North African influence. North African influence, wild beasts attacking their prey being a most popular theme in mosaics of the Roman West. The marine panel and the bird panel, as well as the arrangement of the geometric borders, are clearly inspired by Antioch mosaics. The whole layout of the floor in subsequent panels seems to be in accordance with local taste. Were there two or more crews working, or one artist familiar with the artistic trends of the Roman West, as well as Syrian models, classical traditions, as well as late antique motifs? To the south of this large floor, there was a large white plain mosaic floor with a rectangular effaced emblem. It was here. It is possible the entrance to the whole complex was from the west through this sort of anteroom, with an entrance to the main hall from the south, so from here, and then go into the main hall. The large plain white area here to the west of the mosaic indicates a place where people would be seated, facing east in the direction of a small damaged panel attached to the central carpet. Here. The decorative border of this panel consists of a braided band and a petal motif not found elsewhere on the floor. This panel depicts two gold amphorae placed on what seems to be Doric-like capitals. The upper part of the amphorae, regretfully, was damaged. They are flanking a crater seemingly made of glass, placed on a low-legged tripod with animal feet. A globular element has been placed on the mouth of the crater, you see it here, and is reflected in the globular base, and so is the bird. Here is a black bird, and here you see it down here. What was the meaning of this motif? We thought before that this panel may have faced an entrance in the eastern wall, but there was no entrance. as we discovered in recent excavations. The mosaic floor abutted a massive wall with huge incorporated boulders and what seems to be an external tower on its eastern side. We probably might have here the remains of an ancient city wall of so far unknown date, awaiting further excavations. There were no adjacent rooms to the north and the west of the floor, so how should we understand the complex? It definitely cannot be interpreted as part of a Roman villa, since there were no other rooms. It must have been a large assemblage hall, but for what and for whom? We don't have any inscriptions, so it could not be a public building. The refrain from depicting human figures might give us a clue about the religious identity of the patron, who could have been either Jewish or Christian, but certainly not pagan. By the 3rd century, there were numerous synagogues and academies in Lod. Talmudic literature refers fairly often to the many synagogues. Our mosaic floor adorned a very large hall, but according to the lack of inscriptions, this hall could not be part of a public building like a synagogue. Was it an academy of one of the prominent rabbis? The lack of any Jewish symbols does not support this idea. So we are left with a Christian population of Lod. Should it be that an early Christian community of Lod used to gather here? Some pictorial elements on the mosaic floor, for example, the ketos, the peacocks, the cock, and the fish, seem to point in that direction and might have some symbolic significance. And there are other facts to take into consideration. According to pottery and coins, the place was abandoned at the beginning of the 4th century at the latest. Since there are no signs of a violent destruction, the place must have been demolished deliberately and carefully, so as not to damage the floor. A complete bowl filled with white plaster found on our floor indicates that somebody was busy with repair works and had to leave unexpectedly. The floor was then covered up with a thick layer of soil containing much pottery and fragment of colored fresco that once covered the walls. What happened? We know that in 351, Lod was destroyed in the revolt during the reign of Gallus Caesar. But this date is too late for our mosaic floor, since no 4th century pottery has been discovered and not even African red slipware or Form 50, the first form to appear in our area. So we are left with a great persecution of the Christians, initiated by Diocletian in 303. Diocletian's first edict, published in 303, ordered the destruction of Christian scriptures and places of worship across the empire and prohibited Christians from assembling for worship. Probably these persecutions might have put an end to the complex. We will never know what actually happened here, but curiously, nothing was ever built over the mosaic floor until the late Ottoman period. In 1996, when we expanded our excavation to the south in order to search for adjacent rooms, we first discovered a large stone-paved area, probably a public space. It could be dated to the Umayyad period. A hole in this pavement allowed us to dig deeper, and so about a meter below the pavement, we discovered the second mosaic floor. Here it is. In 209, we dismantled the pavement and could expose additional parts of this floor, but still not all. A large part is still covered and extends to the west under the road. We need an additional excavation to dismantle the Heralut Street for a second time to free the entire new mosaic floor. The new floor was laid on exactly the same level and about the same axis as the former one. No, go back. Former. It is composed of one large carpet with a border of dented pyramids, a double-strand guilloche, and scrolls. The main carpet has 2 panels of geometric design. Up here and up here. and a central carpet with 9 octagonal medallions surrounded by guilloche bands. The octagons are bordered by broad shaded bands that we don't have on the other mosaic here. There are 2 hunting scenes that recalling those on the other floor, but are less sophisticated here, down here. Here the animals were placed on solid ground and surrounded by abundant vegetation. Here, see a tree and solid ground. The other medallions show a bear attacking a bull. Here. A crater with 2 birds, and a basket full of fruits flanked by rock partridges. One still partly covered medallion reveals fishes, and the central medallion shows what seems to be a lion. Between the octagonal medallions are small squares inhabited by birds and fish. To the south of the carpet is a large white area of white mosaic floor where people would be seated. This floor was probably also entered through the anteroom here, between the 2 floors. The new floor is later than the former and should probably be dated to the late 4th or early 5th century, when Lod had recovered from the destruction of 351. Even after the 2009 season of excavations, we are actually still facing the same questions. How shall we understand the whole complex? What was the function of these large halls? Whom did they serve? How should we understand the various motives? We can only hope a future excavation will give us some answers. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both, and I think we have some time to take a few questions if our speakers would be willing to answer them. But we'd also like to thank the Metropolitan Museum and Dr. Christopher Lightfoot, who is in the audience, and who is in charge of the wonderful installation that is here for all of you to enjoy today. Dr. Lightfoot is a great expert on this and was responsible for the placement and the bringing over and arranging for the Metropolitan Museum to show this exhibition. So thank you, Chris.